At 10 p.m., my brother swiped my keys, and by 4:47 a.m. on Sunday, the brand new car was totaled. Sit back and enjoy my latest story. My brother Wesley wrapped a practically new vehicle around a guardrail at 4:47 on a Sunday morning. My father screamed at me nonstop for 20 minutes, called me selfish, called me spiteful, said my attitude had single-handedly destroyed our family. But here's the detail that still makes me grin whenever I remember it. The car mangled on Route 315 wasn't my Mazda CX-30. It was Dad's cherished $78,000 Cadillac Escalade, the one he proudly referred to as his retirement present to myself. And Wesley? He took it, fully convinced Dad would forgive him the way he always had, until the night Dad finally didn't. My name is Savannah Gilmore. I'm 29. Until 4 months ago, I was the invisible daughter in a household where the spotlight belonged exclusively to my younger brother. I grew up in Mountaintop, Pennsylvania, a small town 15 minutes outside Wilkes Barre where everyone knows your business and gossip moves at roughly the speed of light. My father, Gerald Gilmore, built Gilmore Heating and Cooling from scratch. Started it in our garage when I was 3. Turned it into the largest HVAC company in Luzerne County. Peaked at 42 employees. He was prouder of that business than most men are of their own kids. Correction. Prouder of the business than he ever was of me. My mother, Diane, is a full-time peacekeeper. Her entire worldview fits in 5 words. Let's not rock the boat. Any tension? Smile, nod, act like everything's perfect. Above all, never upset your father or your brother. Ah, Wesley. The golden boy. The favorite. The 26-year-old who still hauls his laundry to Mom's every Sunday because, direct quote, her fabric softener smells better. Not helpless exactly, just special. Last Thanksgiving, he genuinely asked me how long to microwave ice cubes so they'd be cold enough. I stared at him for a solid 10 seconds, then refilled my wine glass. Some questions aren't worth dignifying. Wesley has worked for Dad since he dropped out of community college at 19. He rolls in around 10, takes 2-hour lunches, leaves by 4, and still manages to complain about exhaustion. Dad pays him $52,000 a year for the privilege. I know the exact number because I once glimpsed his pay stub while sorting Mom's paperwork. Meanwhile, I clawed my way from bank teller to assistant branch manager at Landmark Credit Union over 7 years. Dad has never, not one single time, asked how my job is going. But the part that really stings? Over the last 4 years, Wesley has borrowed exactly $2,300 from me. $100 here, $300 there. Always the same line. I'll pay you back Tuesday, sis. Tuesday never arrives. When I mentioned it to Dad, just once, he looked at me like I'd proposed harvesting Wesley for spare parts. Family doesn't keep score, Savannah. That's your problem. You're always keeping score. Funny thing, Wesley keeps very detailed score of his sneaker collection. 34 pairs, most of them worth more than my monthly car payment. But sure, I'm the one with the issue. 2 weeks before the night everything imploded, I finally did something purely for myself. I bought my first brand new car, a 2024 Mazda CX-30 in lunar silver. Before that, I'd driven a 2009 Toyota Corolla with 187,000 miles, no AC for 3 years, driver's window stuck halfway down, and a left-turn groan that sounded like someone stepping on a cat. I kept that car for 7 years because I was saving, paycheck by paycheck, penny by penny, for something that was actually mine. The day I drove the Mazda off the lot, I sat in the parking lot and cried for 10 minutes. Happy tears. That car was proof of everything I'd accomplished alone. No dad bailout, no family strings, just me showing up and doing the work. Dad's reaction when I showed him the Mazda? Why didn't you buy American? He said it standing next to his $78,000 Escalade, the retirement gift he bought himself, even though he had zero intention of retiring. That vehicle was his personality distilled, flashy, oversized, entirely unnecessary. When Wesley turned 24, Dad bought him a Jeep Wrangler outright. No loan, no payments, big red bow, straight out of a commercial. When I turned 24, Dad gave me a AAA membership. More practical, he said. He wasn't wrong. I used it 3 times that year when the Corolla died. But still, Jeep versus roadside assistance. The comparison is brutal. The weekend that changed everything started like every other family dinner at my parents' house. Saturday, 6 p.m., pot roast and barely concealed resentment. I parked my shiny new Mazda behind Dad's Escalade in the driveway. My usual spot. A metaphor I didn't decode until later. Inside, Mom was frantically mashing potatoes because Wesley was, surprise, late again. He strolled in 40 minutes after we were supposed to eat. No apology. Just, traffic was insane. In Mountaintop, where traffic literally never exists. Dad didn't blink at the tardiness, just clapped him on the back. "There's my boy. Grab a beer, dinner's ready." If I'd been 40 minutes late, I'd have received a sermon on respect. Wesley got a cold Budweiser and a proud smile. During dinner, Wesley pitched his latest business idea, an app to help people find parking spots. Spoiler. It already exists, and it's called every navigation app on Earth. Dad nodded like his son had just invented fire. Smart thinking, son. Real entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to faceplant into my plate. When there was finally a break in the Wesley fan club meeting, I mentioned I'd just closed a tough fraud case at work. A client lost $14,000 to a scam. I spent 3 weeks coordinating with the fraud team and recovered every cent. I was proud. It was hard, meaningful work. Dad's response. "That's nice, honey. Hey, Wesley, how's your golf swing? Still slicing on the back 9? 3 weeks of effort, $14,000 saved, and all I got was, "That's nice, honey," followed by golf talk. I excused myself to help Mom with dishes. Needed to submerge my hands in scalding soapy water before I wrapped them around my brother's throat. That Saturday night, I made one small decision that unraveled 29 years of family fiction. The forecast called for heavy overnight rain. My new Mazda was sitting uncovered in the driveway. My apartment complex in Kingston has no covered parking, but my friend Colleen's building 3 blocks away does. She'd offered me her extra spot months earlier. So at 9 o'clock, I grabbed my spare keys, moved the Mazda under cover, and walked back to say goodnight. In my hurry, I left my main set of keys on the kitchen counter. Figured I'd grab them tomorrow at Sunday brunch. No big deal. Said goodnight to Mom, waved vaguely toward the basement where Wesley had gone to sulk, and drove home in my little weekend rental Honda Fit. Boring. Ordinary end to a boring, ordinary family dinner. Except it wasn't the end. Because 12 hours later, that tiny choice, protecting my car from rain, would lay bare decades of favoritism and cost my father far more than he ever imagined his perfect son was worth. Before we go on, if you're enjoying this, please subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read every single one and it genuinely brightens my day. Thank you. Now back to that Saturday night. I need to rewind slightly because I skipped over a key confrontation at dinner, and it matters. After the dishes were done, Wesley cornered me in the kitchen while Mom was in the bathroom and Dad was glued to a golf tournament in the living room. He had that look, the one that says he's already decided he deserves whatever he's about to ask for. His girlfriend Megan needed a ride from Philadelphia International Airport the next morning. Her flight was supposedly landing at 10 a.m., a 2-hour drive. Wesley's Jeep was making a weird noise. which I later learned meant he was almost out of gas and didn't want to pay for the round trip. So he wanted to borrow my brand new Mazda, the one I'd owned for exactly 14 days. I said no. For context, I almost never say no to Wesley. It's easier to give in, avoid the tantrum, let the golden child have his way. But something about that car, what it represented, made me stand firm. I'm not comfortable lending it out, I told him. It's brand new. I've barely driven it. You can rent a car, take an Uber, or Megan can take an Uber like a normal person. His face shifted from friendly to entitled to furious in about 2 seconds. I've seen that progression my whole life. It usually ends with me getting yelled at, Dad taking his side, and Mom telling me to be more flexible. Are you serious? He said. It's one morning. I'll have it back by noon. No, Wesley. Come on, don't be like this. Like what? Like someone who doesn't want to lend out her brand new car? That's pretty normal. He scoffed like I'd said something absurd. It's not like I'm going to crash it. Famous last words. If I could tattoo one sentence on my brain, that would be it. Dad wandered in right then. He has a sixth sense for conflict. Wesley switched tactics instantly. Dad, Savannah won't let me borrow her car to pick up Megan tomorrow. Can you talk to her? I watched Dad's face, stupidly hoping, just this once, he'd back me up. Wesley, it's her car. Respect her decision. Instead, he looked at me with thick disappointment. Savannah, don't be difficult. It's one morning. Help your brother out. Dad, it's my car. I said no. You're being petty. This is exactly your problem. You always make things harder than they need to be. Mom appeared in the doorway, already wringing her hands. What's going on? Is everything okay? Savannah won't let Wesley borrow her car, Dad reported, as if I'd committed a felony. Mom gave me the pleading eyes. Honey, it would really help. You know how Megan gets. Mom, I said no. That's my answer. Wesley threw his hands up. Fine. Whatever. Be selfish. He stormed to the basement and slammed the door so hard the hallway pictures rattled. Dad shook his head at me. I don't know why you always have to be like this. Like what? Like someone with boundaries? See? That attitude right there. He went back to his golf. I stood in the kitchen feeling 12 years old again, blamed for something that wasn't my fault. Mom lingered. She touched my arm and whispered, Why do you always make things harder? You know how your father gets. You know how Wesley is. Would it have been so terrible to just say yes? Mom, it's my car. I know, honey, but sometimes keeping the peace is more important than being right. I stared at her, the woman who taught me to tie my shoes, make scrambled eggs, always say please and thank you, telling me that my brother's entitlement mattered more than my boundaries. I have to go, I said. I'm moving my car to Colleen's. It's going to rain tonight. That's when I left. That's when I parked the Mazda under cover. That's when I accidentally left my keys on the counter. At 10:17 p.m., I was brushing my teeth when my phone buzzed. Text from Wesley. Change my mind, taking the car. You won't even notice. My stomach dropped. I called him, straight to voicemail. Called again, voicemail. Called Mom. Wesley took my car, I said, voice shaking. Honey, calm down, he's home. I just saw him walk through the kitchen. Then why did he text me that he's taking it? I'm sure it was a joke. You know how he is. He's probably just trying to get a rise out of you. Go to bed, Savannah. Everything's fine. I tried Wesley 3 more times. Nothing. Texted him. This isn't funny. Bring my car back. No reply. Here's what no one knew yet. At 10:17, Wesley grabbed my keys, went outside, and found nothing. My Mazda was already at Colleen's. His text was pure petty spite. A power play to ruin my night because I dared say no. But Wesley didn't just go to sleep. He spent the next 5 hours drinking Dad's bourbon and spiraling. Megan kept texting. Her flight had been rescheduled to 5:30 a.m. She needed him there. She was testing him, though he didn't know it yet. Around 3 a.m., drunk, desperate, and utterly unable to accept no, Wesley made a decision that would shatter everything. He opened the drawer where Dad kept spare keys, took the Escalade set, climbed into the $78,000 Cadillac, backed out, and headed for Philadelphia. In his bourbon-fogged mind, the logic was airtight. Dad would understand. Dad always understood. Dad had been cleaning up Wesley's messes for 26 years. This would be no different. He never made it to the airport. Before we continue, a quick word about Megan Cowlick. She's 24, a dental hygienist in Scranton, dating Wesley for about 14 months by then, and completely done with him. Megan worked 40 hours a week cleaning teeth, paid her own rent, drove a 12-year-old Nissan Sentra with 140,000 miles because she was saving for nursing school. She was dating a guy who worked maybe 20 hours a week, lived off Dad's money, and still asked to split the check. She'd been dropping hints for months. I don't know if this is working. I need someone who shows up. Wesley heard what Wesley wanted to hear, so that Saturday she ran a test. She told him her flight from visiting her sister in Charlotte had been moved up to 5:30 a.m. Sunday. She needed a pickup from Philly, 2 hours away in the middle of the night. Spoiler: there was no flight. Megan was home in Scranton watching Netflix, waiting to see if Wesley would actually come through. At 4:47 a.m., Wesley was speeding on Route 315 in pouring rain, BAC 0.11, over the legal 0.08. Not blackout drunk, but impaired enough that reflexes were slow, and judgment, already not his strong suit, was abysmal. He lost control on a curve. The Escalade slammed the guardrail at roughly 60 miles per hour, spun, hit again, and ended up in a ditch with the front crumpled like tinfoil. Wesley's injuries weren't fatal. Broken wrist, cuts from shattered glass, bruised ribs. He was conscious enough to try restarting the car, instinct still screaming, flee, avoid consequences, make it disappear. But the engine wouldn't turn over, and a passing driver had already called 911. By 5:05 a.m., Pennsylvania State Police were there. They smelled alcohol, ran field sobriety. He failed. Breathalyzed him, 0.11. Handcuffed him on the spot beside the smoking wreck, rain still falling. State troopers don't care whose son you are. They don't care how much money Daddy has. They see a drunk driver who crashed and tried to flee. They do their job. No favors, no calls to smooth things over. Just cuffs and protocol. At 5:45 a.m., my phone rang. Dad screaming. "What the hell did Wesley do to your car?" I sat up, heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Savannah. Police called. Wesley crashed your car on 315. He's in the hospital." "Dad, that's impossible. My car is at Colleen's. It's been there all night." "Stop lying. They said he crashed a silver car. He took your car and wrecked it." "Dad, listen. My car isn't at your house. I moved it last night. Check the driveway." Long pause. I heard him walk, open the front door, step onto the porch. Then silence. A very long silence. "Dad, what do you see?" His voice came back smaller. "The Escalade isn't here." "What do you mean it isn't there?" "It's not here, Savannah. The Escalade, oh my God." I'm not proud of it, but I smiled. In my dark bedroom at 5:45 a.m., brother in hospital, father melting down on the phone. I smiled. Because I knew. Wesley hadn't crashed my car. He'd crashed Dad's precious $78,000 Cadillac Escalade, the one Dad hand-washed every Sunday, parked at the far end of every lot to avoid door dings. I got dressed and drove to Geisinger Medical Center. The whole way I waited to feel guilt, fear for Wesley, anything besides this strange, calm satisfaction. It never came. For 29 years I'd watched my brother glide through life on Dad's money, Dad's connections, Dad's endless forgiveness. Now something had happened Dad couldn't fix. The hospital was chaos. Mom crying in the waiting room. Dad pacing, arguing with a trooper who clearly didn't give a damn who Gerald Gilmore was. Wesley in a bed, cast on wrist, IV in arm, handcuffed to the rail. Yes, handcuffed. My brother was under arrest. Dad turned on me the second I walked in. "This is your fault. If you'd just let him borrow your car." "My car is fine," I said calmly. "It's at Colleen's. Wesley didn't take my car. He took yours." Dad froze mid-sentence. "What?" "The keys I left on the counter were mine. Wesley took your spare set from the drawer. He drove your Escalade. The car he crashed is yours, Dad, not my Mazda." Dad's face cycled through confusion, denial, horror, more denial, anger, and finally something I'd never seen on him before: defeat. He turned to the trooper. "Is that true?" Trooper checked notes. "Vehicle is registered to Gerald Gilmore. 2023 Cadillac Escalade. That's you, sir? Your son was driving while intoxicated. BAC 0.11. Charges: DUI, unauthorized use of motor vehicle, damage to state property, guardrail. Attempted leaving the scene." Dad looked at Wesley. Wesley stared at the floor. I memorized the trooper's badge number. I had a feeling I'd be sending that man a thank you card. For the first time in 29 years, Dad couldn't buy Wesley out of trouble. No phone call. No check. His golden boy was handcuffed to a hospital bed facing felony charges. Nothing Gerald Gilmore could do. I didn't feel joy exactly, but I felt something absent for a very long time: hope. Over the next 48 hours, I learned more about Pennsylvania criminal law than I ever wanted to. Wesley wasn't facing one charge. He was facing 4. DU, high rate, 0.10 to 0.16 BAC, worse than standard DUI. Unauthorized use of motor vehicle, felony 3rd degree because the vehicle was worth over $2,000. Try $78,000. Criminal mischief, $12,400 guardrail damage, state property. Attempted leaving the scene. He tried restarting the car multiple times. 1 felony. Dad, for the first time, couldn't write a check to erase it. Dad tried, though. The next day, he called everyone: township council buddy, high school friend who became a judge, wrong jurisdiction, accountant, lawyer, insurance agent. Calls like a man bailing a sinking ship with a teacup. But state troopers, state highways, state property damage, none of it local. Dad's mountaintop connections meant nothing to Pennsylvania State Police. They had a drunk driver, totaled vehicle, damaged guardrail, witnesses. End of story. The insurance call broke him. I was at the house picking up my keys, still on the counter, when Dad made the call in his office. Door open. I heard everything. "Yes, I'm the policyholder. Gerald Gilmore. 2023 Cadillac Escalade. Yes, my son was driving. No, he's not listed on the policy." Long pause. "Was he authorized to drive the vehicle?" the adjuster asked. Dad hesitated, calculating. "Say yes. Possible coverage, but insurance fraud. Federal crime. Say no. Claim denied. $78,000 gone, but no prison." After 26 years of choosing Wesley over everything, me, Mom, logic, accountability, he finally had to choose between his son and himself. No, Dad said quietly. He was not authorized. Adjuster, almost cheerful. I'm sorry, Mr. Gilmore, but unauthorized use by a family member with BAC above legal limit is excluded under Section 14. We cannot process this claim. Anything else I can help with today? She said it like she was reading a banana bread recipe. $78,000 gone. She offered him a mint. Dad hung up without goodbye. Sat motionless at his desk for 10 minutes, staring at the wall. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. 3 days later, I did something I probably shouldn't have. But credit union training makes you thorough. Megan's story didn't add up. I checked flight schedules from Charlotte to Philly that Sunday morning. No 5:30 a.m. flight. No flights at all that matched. I told Mom first. Savannah, don't make things worse. Wesley has enough problems. Classic Mom. So I told Wesley directly. He was out on $15,000 bail, moping at my parents' house. Found him eating cereal at 2 p.m. There was no flight, I said. Megan's rescheduled 5:30 a.m. flight doesn't exist. I checked every airline. His face went confusion to doubt to horrible dawning realization. She was testing you, I said. She made it up to see if you'd show up. And you showed up. He called her right there, hands shaking. I didn't stay for the whole conversation. I heard enough. Was there actually a flight? Are you serious? You made it up. This whole thing. Megan broke up with him via text that afternoon. 47 words. Wesley read them aloud to Mom while crying. I can't be with someone who commits felonies over a test. This isn't what I wanted. I think we both know this was coming. I wish you the best. Please don't contact me again. 47 words to end 14 months. I'd say he didn't deserve it. But honestly, he probably did. 2 weeks after the crash, the local paper ran a small police blotter piece. Mountaintop man charged in DUI crash on Route 315. It named Wesley fully and, because reporters love context, noted he was son of Gerald Gilmore, owner of Gilmore Heating and Cooling. That article caught the eye of Ray Pulaski. 2 years earlier, Wesley, drunk, had sideswiped Ray's parked 2019 Lexus ES 350 outside a Wilkes Bar restaurant. Ray got the plate, called police. Dad showed up, paid Ray $4,500 cash to drop it. No report, no insurance, just handshake and bills. But Ray was smarter than Dad thought. He kept photos of the damage, kept records of the cash, and, crucially, secretly recorded the conversation on his phone. Pennsylvania is one-party consent. Ray was that party. When Ray saw the DUI article, he saw justice, not money. He called the DA's office, sent photos, sent the recording. Suddenly, Wesley's case wasn't one isolated incident. It was a pattern. Drunk driving, daddy bailouts. The prosecutor was very interested in that pattern. The insurance investigator called me a week later. She was building a report on the claim denial and wanted family statements. I told her everything. Wesley's text. Taking the car, you won't notice. Screenshot. Years of entitlement. Borrowing without repaying. The pattern. When Dad found out I cooperated, he called me. Not yelling, just tired. Why did you have to tell them all that? He's your brother. Because it's the truth, Dad. I'm done lying for him. I've been lying for this family my whole life. He hung up. For the first time in 29 years, I didn't feel guilty for telling the truth. The final insurance report was 19 pages. Dad threw it across the kitchen table at a family meeting 3 weeks later. Claim permanently denied. But the real gut punch was on page 14. Investigator noted Wesley's documented pattern of unauthorized vehicle use and previous incidents resolved through private financial settlements to avoid legal consequences. In writing, Official DA had a copy. Wesley wasn't just facing DUI anymore. He was facing the weight of every consequence he'd ever dodged. Court date came 4 months after the crash. 4 months of lawyers, motions, plea deals. Dad slowly losing his mind. Dad hired Mitchell Kowalski, best criminal defense in Luzerne County. $23,000 retainer. No relation to Megan, though the name made things awkward. Even Mitchell couldn't work miracles. The pattern evidence hurts, he told my parents. I overheard. The 2-year-old recording hurts. Ray Pulaski is cooperating fully. He'll testify if it goes to trial. Dad. So, what are we looking at? Mitchell. Trial and lose? 18 to 36 months, multiple felonies. He'd be a convicted felon for life. Or we negotiate. DA offered DUI high rate. Unauthorized use dropped to theft by unlawful taking. Criminal mischief. Drop leaving the scene for guilty plea. Recommended. 12 to 18 months county. 5 years probation. Full restitution. Mom started crying. Dad nodded like a man hearing a terminal diagnosis. Wesley pleaded guilty. Sentencing was a Tuesday in October. Luzerne County Courthouse in downtown Wilkes-Barre. Big stone building. Serious, cold, indifferent. I went. Not sure why. Maybe I needed to see it was real. Courtroom smaller than expected. Dark wood, fluorescent lights. That government building smell. Wesley at defense table in an ill-fitting suit, thinner from stress. Dad behind him in the gallery. Mom next to Dad, clutching tissue. I sat alone in the back. Judge Eleanor Brennan, early 60s, silver hair, glasses, face that said she'd heard every excuse and wasn't buying new ones. Prosecutor laid it out. DUI, felony theft, property damage, BAC 0.11, pattern, previous incident, cash payment, recorded conversation. Played the recording. Dad stared at the floor. Mitchell argued. First official offense, good family, support system, remorse, potential for rehab. Judge listened with the same neutral expression. Then she looked at Wesley. Mr. Gilmore, please stand. He stood, hands shaking even from the back row. I've reviewed your case thoroughly, she said. Accidents happen. People make mistakes. What strikes me is the pattern. Every time you faced consequences, someone removed them. A check written, a problem solved, a lesson never learned. Your father paid $4,500 to cover up a previous drunk driving incident. Your family enabled behavior that endangered others. And now, here we are. She paused. The purpose of this court is accountability, something you apparently never experienced, and protection of the public from dangerous patterns. Wesley Brian Gilmore, I sentence you to 18 months in Luzerne County Correctional Facility. Upon release, 5 years probation. Driver's license suspended 5 years. Full restitution, $12,400 guardrail, $78,000 vehicle. Complete substance abuse program while incarcerated. You are 26, Mr. Gilmore. Young enough to turn your life around. I hope you use this time wisely. Court adjourned. Bailiff approached. Big guy, calm, professional. Hands behind your back. Cuffs clicked. Watch your step. First practical advice Wesley couldn't argue with. Wesley glanced back at Dad one last time. Dad didn't move, didn't wave, didn't mouth anything. Just sat frozen watching his son led away in cuffs. Then Wesley was gone through the side door. It was over. I stayed while the room emptied. Mom sobbing into Dad's shoulder. Dad patting her back mechanically, eyes empty. They left without acknowledging me. I sat thinking about accountability. Wesley lived 26 years without it. Now he got 18 months of it all at once. Dad spent decades shielding him and was now drowning in consequences himself. $78,000 car, $23,000 lawyer, $12,000 restitution, $15,000 bail, forfeited after Wesley violated terms by contacting Megan, lost contracts from the newspaper story, ruined reputation. The golden child had cost Dad more than he ever dreamed. And me? I drove home in my beautiful, untouched, hard-earned Mazda CX-30, the car Wesley tried to steal, the car that survived because I moved it 3 blocks to protect it from rain, the car that meant everything I built alone. I didn't feel revenge. I felt clear. After 29 years, the math finally added up. If this story hooked you, I'd be so grateful for a subscribe and a like. It helps more people find these stories. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, how it all ended. It's been 4 months since sentencing. 4 months since I watched my brother get handcuffed and led away for 18 months for stealing a car he thought would be forgiven. My life looks completely different. I got the promotion, branch manager at Landmark Credit Union. The guy they chose over me twice, with less experience, quit after 3 months. Couldn't handle it. Turns out showing up and working hard matters. Who knew? $14,000 raise. Office with a window. My name on the door. I moved to a nicer apartment in 40 Fort. 15 minutes from work. Real closet space. Working dishwasher, covered parking. My Mazda sleeps under a roof every night. Some habits stick. I'm dating someone. Patrick Noak, high school history teacher at Coughlin and Wilkes Barre. Drives a Subaru Forester with a Support Your Local Library sticker. He calls the whole Gilmore saga absolutely bananas. He's not wrong. He once asked if my family was always this dramatic. I said, "Honey, this is the calm version. You should have seen Christmas 2021 when Wesley brought a girlfriend named Destiny who was engaged to someone else. Screaming match on the porch. She left in an Uber eating our leftover pumpkin pie. Took the whole pie. Not even a slice." Patrick stared, then said, "I'm going to need that in writing because I won't believe it later." Wesley's about 4 months into his sentence. I visited once, 6 weeks in. Not sure why. Maybe to see him there. Maybe to let him see me thriving without the family drag. Visitation room at Luzerne County Correctional. Plastic chairs, off-brand vending, lights that make everyone look sick. Wesley thinner, hair shorter, eyes blank. Not angry, not self-pitying, just empty. We talked 40 minutes. No blame. No begging for money. No excuses. "I don't know who I am when nobody's cleaning up after me," he said. "Guess I'm figuring it out." I didn't know what to say. I just told him I'd visit again if he wanted. He said he'd like that. I haven't gone back yet. Not sure I will. Dad sold Gilmore Heating and Cooling 6 weeks ago. Couldn't keep it afloat after the lost contracts, legal fees, restitution, reputation hit. Scranton Company bought the name and client list. Dad got enough to pay debts and a little left. Not much. The man who bragged about building an empire from his garage now works as an HVAC consultant in Hazleton. $28 an hour. No employees. No prestige. No Escalade. Drives a used 2018 Buick Envision. Reliable, practical. Exactly the kind of car he used to mock me for driving. The universe has a sense of humor. Dad and I have dinner sometimes. Once a month, maybe. He's quieter. Asks about my job and actually listens. No direct apology. I don't think he knows how. But last month he said something that stopped me cold. "You were right to say no that night about the car. You were right." From Gerald Gilmore, that's practically a Hallmark confession. Mom got her first job in over 30 years. Front desk at a Kingston dental practice 3 days a week. Answers phones, schedules, greets patients. She's 58 and says it's the best decision she ever made. Last week she told Wesley on a prison call she can't put money in his commissary every week anymore. Learn to budget with what you earn from your prison job. He makes 37 cents an hour in the laundry. Mom said that's plenty for soap and ramen if he's careful. Baby steps. Wesley writes me letters. Actual, handwritten ones. Because email isn't a thing in county. Handwriting like a doctor in an earthquake. But readable. Last letter. He's gotten strategic about commissary. Ramen's $1.25 a pack. He trades shifts for extra seasoning packets. The guy who once called Whole Foods too basic is now tactical about soup investments. Never thought I'd see the day. The $2,300 he owed me? 2 months after sentencing, a check arrived. $2,300 exactly. Memo. From Wesley's share, Dad. No note, no apology. I deposited it without guilt. It was always my money. Just waited for someone to admit it. Every morning I drive Route 315 to work, past the exact spot where Wesley crashed the Escalade. Guardrail replaced. Fresh metal, no scratches. You'd never know, but I know. Every day I drive past in my untouched, beautiful, hard-earned Mazda CX-30. The car he intended to steal. The car that survived because I protected it from rain. I spent my life being told I was too sensitive, too difficult, too rigid with boundaries. Turns out I wasn't too anything. I was just surrounded by people who'd never heard no. The moment I stopped being their safety net, reality became the teacher. And reality is a much harsher teacher than I ever was. I didn't destroy my brother. I didn't plot revenge. I just stopped protecting him from himself. I held a boundary. I said no. Then stepped back and let consequences happen naturally. Some people wait their whole lives for karma. I learned karma doesn't need your help. It just needs you to get out of the way. My brother is serving 18 months because he couldn't accept no. My father lost his business and pride because he spent 30 years saying yes to the wrong person. And me? I'm exactly where I always should have been. In my own car, on my own road, going exactly where I want to go. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's just a longer fall. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this resonated, another story is waiting right on your screen. I think you'll love it. And remember, your boundaries aren't selfish. They're survival.